Hello dear learners, welcome to SWAYAM NPTEL course on Methodology of Educational Research, and I am Dr. Sarita Anand from Department of Education, Vinay Bhavan, Vishwabharati. And today I will talk about the module 26 on phenomenological inquiry or research. This is lecture 26, and before going to the lecture we will go through the concepts covered till now. We had earlier covered the case study, the concept and the definition, characteristics, different uses, purpose of the case study, principles of the case study, different types of case study, data collection techniques in case studies, and planning of the case studies with few limitations of the case studies. Now, we will go through the research method. I will try to start with the research method leading towards the today's topic of phenomenological studies. So, we will start with the basic concept of the research method. We know that the research method in the behavioral sciences and social sciences relying on most on the heavily on the psychology, sociology, anthropology, etc. Because research in these fields emphasize on logical positivism, which uses experimental and quantitative research methods. Most educational research also utilizes these methodologies. Still, some research concerns may be addressed more appropriately with a phenomenological or qualitative research approach derived from the humanities, particularly history, philosophy, or with qualitative methods from the social sciences like ethnography or anthropology. So, research can be divided into two broad categories. We know that the quantitative research and the qualitative research. Quantitative researches consist of research in which the data can be analyzed in terms of numbers. An example of quantitative research might be a study comparing two methods of the teaching reading first grade children, because the data used to determine which method is most successful or suitable will be successful for the test score or greater test scores. So, research can also be qualitative, and that is describing the events and the persons scientifically without the use of numerical data. A study consisting of interviews of mothers or of handicapped infant to determine how their lives and belief were affected by the birth of their handicapped or special or disabled or divyang children. So, whatever is suitable term you can use it, is an example of qualitative research. Such a study carefully and logically analyzes the responses of the mothers and the reports those responses that are consistent as well as those that they disagree. So, there has been much confusion over just what qualitative research is. One of the problem is that qualitative research is often described by a negative. So, this is our experience also. This is that is it is research that is non-quantitative. That is a problem for two reasons. First, some qualitative research results in some quantification, like counting the number of occurrence of a particular behavior, we calculate the percentage or go for the tally. Then the second one is to represent a negative connotation, that qualitative research is only what quantitative research is not, rather than positively stating what is the qualitative research. So, the issue might be more accurately put that quantitative research is based on the logical positivism or the positive paradigm, which utilizes experimental research methodologies, whereas qualitative research is based on the phenomenological paradigm, which uses a variety of interpretive research methodologies. So, according to Best and Kahan in 2014, research methodologies can be divided into two major paradigms. First one is logical positivism and the second one is phenomenological inquiry. That is why I have created this introduction for to reaching to our today's topic, that is phenomenological inquiry. Another problem in understanding the qualitative research methods lies within the misconception that qualitative research is a unitary approach, when in reality qualitative research is a variety of alternative approaches to the traditional positivistic research most often found in the literature. A variety of terms have been used for the various forms of qualitative methods, including the ethnographic studies, case studies, phenomenological, I have made it in green color, constructivist approach, participant observational, and so many other type of cases of the qualitative researches. So, now let us explore the phenomenological inquiry in detail, and that is the today's lecture. So, phenomenological inquiry, it is the broadest meaning of the phenomenological phenomenology is to theoretical point of view that advocates the study of direct experience taken at face value, and one which sees behavior and determines the phenomena of experience rather than by external, objective and physically described reality. This is said by English and English in 1958. I have given the reference, you can go through it. The term phenomenology originates from the philosophy, and it is closely associated with the work of Edmund Husserl, and who argued that reality should be studied as it is experienced continuously or consciously by the individuals, not as an objective entity independent from the human perception. In phenomenological research, therefore, the focus is not explaining the causal relationship, but on understanding the subjective meaning. So, Edmund Husserl has mentioned that before going for the phenomenological inquiry, we should understand the concept of how this inquiry works in the natural setting. So, sometimes we say that this is the naturalistic study also. So, phenomenological inquiry is a qualitative research approach that seeks to understand and describe the essence of lived experiences as perceived by individuals. Rooted in the philosophy and later adapted into the social science and educational researches, phenomenology focuses on how people experience a particular phenomena rather than on measuring or explaining it through external variables. The central or main concern of phenomenological inquiry is how people experiences, perceive, interpret and make meaning of phenomena in their everyday life rather than measuring it through the numerical indicators said by the Creswell and Poth in 2018. So, this reference I also have mentioned in the reference section. So, Cohen, Mannion and Morrison in 2021 mentioned that Husserl's regarded by many researchers and the workers in the field of inquiry that he was the founder of phenomenology and was concerned with the investigating the source of the foundation of the science and with questioning the common sense taken for granted assumptions of everyday life. And Burrell and Morgan also supported this, and to do this he set about the opening up a new direction in the analysis of consciousness. So, it is focusing on the consciousness of the individual. So, his catchy phrase was there that back to the things. This is very famous phrase, that back to the things, which for him meant finding out how meanings appear directly to us rather than through the media of culture and symbolic structures. So, if we want to define, so phenomenological research is a qualitative approach that aims to understand the essence and the meaning of individuals' lived experiences of a phenomena by exploring how it is concisely perceived and interpreted in their real life context. In other words, we are asked to look beyond the details of everyday life to the essence underlying them. To do this, Husserl exhorts to us that to put the world in brackets. This is also a very important note. I could have given it in bold, that put the word in bracket or free ourselves from our usual ways of perceiving the world. What is left over from this reduction is our consciousness, of which there are three elements: the I, who thinks, the mental acts of this thinking, the subject, and the intentional object of these mental acts. The aim then of this method of epoche, the Husserl called it that dismembering of the constitution of objects in such a way as to free us from all kind of preconceptions, preconceived notions about the world. So, the phenomenological research in reality is understood as it is experienced by the individuals, emphasizing consciousness, perception and meaning. Researchers attempt to set aside the preconceived assumptions through a process known as bracketing or epoch, allowing the phenomena to emerge as described by participants themselves. This approach is particularly valuable in education, where learning, teaching and inclusion are deeply personal and experiential process. So, what are the assumptions behind the phenomenological inquiry? Phenomenological inquiry is grounded in the assumption that human experience is the primary source of knowledge. They focusing on the experiences. It emphasizes that the phenomena cannot be fully understood without examining how individuals consciously experience them within the specific context. According to Martin Heidegger, phenomenology goes beyond perception and includes interpretation of meaning, recognizing the individuals are embedded in the social, cultural and historical context. This led to major traditions of phenomenological researches. Earlier they had used the term tradition, later on this become the types. So, here in the assumption section I am mentioning it as a given by Martin, and this was mentioned as the major tradition. The two traditions are descriptive transcendental phenomenology and the interpretive, that is hermeneutic phenomenology. So, let us take one by one. Descriptive phenomenology focuses on the describing the essence of the experience. Researchers attempt to bracket or suspend their assumptions, epoch, then closely aligned with the Husserl's philosophy, and the second one is interpretive phenomenology, where focus is on interpreting the meaning of the experience, acknowledges the researcher's role, background and prior understanding, and influenced by Heidegger's existential philosophy. So, both are following the philosophy. The first one is following the Husserl's philosophy and the second one is following the Heidegger's philosophy. Now, both traditions aim to reveal the core structures and meanings of the lived experiences of the respondents. So, philosophical foundations of phenomenology, yes, I have mentioned that the earlier it was used in the philosophical researches, later on it is adapted in social sciences, humanity, education and social work, etc. So, phenomenological inquiry is grounded in the philosophical traditions. Edmund and Husserl and Martin Heidegger had mentioned, they promoted, and Husserl's transcendent phenomenology emphasizes describing the experiences they appear to their consciousness, advocating for the suspension of judgments about the external realities. In contrast, Heidegger's hermeneutic phenomenology focuses on the interpretation, emphasizing that individuals' experiences are always situated with the historical, cultural or social context, and Kaz also in 1994 supported the Heidegger's phenomenology. Now, after these two phenomenological aspects, this research is design of inquiry coming from the philosophy and psychology also, which the researcher describes the lived experiences of the individual about a phenomena as described by the participant. This description culminates in the essence of experiences of several individuals who have all experience of that phenomena. This design has a strong philosophical underpinning. The typical involves conduct the interview. Georgi and Mostakas in different time period in 2009, Georgi and Mostakas in 1994 had supported this kind of viewpoint, and these philosophical traditions have shaped methodological approaches in qualitative research, giving rise to different type of phenomenological inquiry that vary in their emphasis on description, interpretation and researcher involvement. Now, let us look into the characteristics of phenomenological researches. We will start with the focus on the lived experiences. This is the main point or major focus of the phenomenological researches. The primary data come from the participants, first person accounts of their experience, essence of phenomena. The goal is to identify common meaning or essence shared across the participants. The intentionality of the consciousness. The experiences are always directed towards something like thoughts, emotion and situation. Then the next one is rich descriptive data. Data are usually collected through in-depth interviews, reflective writings or some narratives. Then a small purposeful samples. Participants are selected because they have directly experienced that particular phenomena. And researchers reflexivity, I have already discussed about this term. The researcher reflects on and acknowledges the personal assumptions and interpretation of the respondents. Now, the types of phenomenological inquiry. In many research books you will find the 4 types of phenomenological inquiry, and I have tried here to give you the simple visual for the types. One is the descriptive phenomenology, second one is interpretive phenomenology, then existential phenomenology, and the fourth one is phenomenology of practice. So, let us start with the one by one. I have mentioned that the earlier it was described in the assumptions, now we are discussing it in the types. So, descriptive phenomenology based on the Herschel's philosophy aims to describe the universal essence of a phenomena by focusing on the participants' conscious experiences. Researchers engage in the bracketing to minimize personal biases, remain as close as possible to the participants' descriptions. For example, a study exploring students' lived experiences of test anxiety may describe common feelings, thoughts and bodily responses shared across participants to identify the essence of academic anxiety. The second one is interpretive or hermeneutic phenomenology, and this phenomenology influenced by the Heidegger, which I have mentioned, acknowledges the interpretation is inherent in understanding of the experience. Researchers' backgrounds and context are considered integral to meaning making rather than the source of bias. For example, an investigation into teachers' experiences of implementing the inclusive education or NAP 2020 policy may interpret how professional identity, institutional culture and prior experiences shape teachers' understanding of inclusion or any other policy. The third type is existential phenomenology, and this existential phenomenology focus on the fundamental human concerns such as identity, freedom, anxiety and meaning of life. It examines how individuals make sense of their existence with the specific context. For example, studying how first generation university students experience belonging and alienation within the higher education institution. The fourth type is phenomenology of practice. This applied form of phenomenology emphasizes on the practical understanding and is commonly used in the professional fields such as education, nursing, social work, etc. For example, exploring teachers' lived experiences of classroom management to inform reflective practice and pedagogical improvement can be the phenomenological of practice. Now, the steps of phenomenological inquiry, I think I could have been prepared it in the horizontal manner, because it is becoming the small. Maybe you will take the printout or screenshot, it will be visible. So, steps of phenomenological inquiry starting from the identifying the phenomena and completing from the synthesis of the essence. So, we will go one by one with the steps of the phenomenological inquiry, and this research follows a systematic yet flexible process aimed to understand the essence of lived experiences, while different scholars describe the steps with slight variation and core procedure remains consistent across the phenomenological tradition. So, whatever I am telling here in this lecture, that is taken from the different research books and compiled it. So, it may vary from the book to book. So, identifying the phenomena is the first step. To first step, we clearly identify the phenomena of the lived experiences that is meaningful and common to the group of individuals. The phenomena must something that the participants have personally experienced, such as learning anxiety, online teaching, examination stress, inclusion or personal identity. At this stage, researchers frame a broad experience oriented research questions, typically beginning with the what is lived experiences of whom they are studying. The second one is researchers reflexivity and bracketing the epoch, and this phenomenological inquiry researcher must engage with the reflexivity, and that is consciously examining the personal belief, assumption and prior experiences related to the phenomena. In descriptive phenomenology influenced by Edmund Husserl, this process is called bracketing epoch. The researcher attempts to suspend preconceived judgments so that the participants' experiences can be described as purely as possible. It means researcher does not have any role play, only whatever respondents are saying he is recording or noting. The third step is selection of participants. Participants are selecting using the purposeful sampling or purposive sampling, and directly experienced phenomena who have the experience, they will be selected. Sample size are usually small, like 5 to 15 participants. The goal is depth, not the generalization. The participants should be able to articulate their experiences meaningfully. If they are not able to tell their experiences, then they will not be a good participant or not useful for the researcher. So, select it purposefully. Then step 4 is data collection. Data collection focuses on the rich first person description of lived experiences, and with the help of common method of data collection like semi structured interviewed, reflective journals or written narratives, personal documents, experiential descriptions, any sketch or drawing or painting made by the participant. Interviews are open ended and encourage participant to describe what they experience, how they experience and what meaning they attach to that experience. The fifth step is transcription and familiarization of the collected data. All interviews and narratives are transcribed in verbatim. The researcher repeatedly reads the data. To become deeply familiar with the participants' account, their information, gain a holistic sense of the experience, identify significant statements. This immersion is crucial for the phenomenological understanding. It means researcher should emerge in the collected data. So, the sixth step is horizontalization of data. So, following the Clark-Mostacas, the researcher treats all statements as having equal value in the initial stage. This process is known as horizontalization, and reductant, overlapping or irrelevant statements are later eliminated, leaving only significant statements directly related to that particular phenomena being studied in that research. The seventh step is formulating meaning of units and themes. The significant statements are grouped in a meaningful units or themes. These themes reflect common patterns across participants' experiences. At this stage, researcher moves from raw descriptions to interpretive understanding while remaining grounded in participants' worlds. This description is supported with the direct quotation to preserve the participants' voices, and the eighth step is textual description. What was the experience? So, whatever they had said, we go for the textual or text form. So, this researcher developed a textual description, and what participants experienced, the feeling, perception, etc., will be noted. Then the step 9 is structural description, how it was experienced. Next, structural description is developed and explained through the how experience occurred, the context, condition and the situation that shaped the experience. This step highlights the situational and contextual factors influencing the phenomena. The step 10 is synthesis of essence. This is the final step of the phenomenological inquiry, where the integrate the textual and structural description to identify the essence of the phenomena. The essence represents the core universal meaning of the lived experiences shared by all participants despite individual differences. So, data collection methods in the phenomenological inquiry, how we collect the data. The data collection here is prioritized method to allow the participants to articulate their experiences in rich detail. Common method includes the in-depth semi-structured interviews, reflective journals, written narratives, sometimes focus group discussions, etc. Interviews are often open-ended, encouraging the participants to describe their experiences in their own words, in their own language, without being constrained by the predetermined categories. In educational research, phenomenological interview enable students and teachers to reflect deeply on the experiences such as learning difficulties, assessment practices, online learning or inclusive classroom. Data collection continues until data saturation is achieved and meaning of no new experiential insights are coming. So, when we are not getting new information from the participants, then we stop the data, we continue to collect the data, and when no new data is coming, then the saturation point came and we stop the data collection. Now, the data analysis in the phenomenological research. Phenomenological data analysis involves identifying significant statements, formulating meanings, clustering these meanings into themes and synthesizing them into a rich description of the phenomena. The final outcome in an articulation of essence of the experience, capturing both what participant experienced and how they experienced it. This is the essence. This process ensures that findings remain grounded in the participants' lived realities. Phenomenological researches in education, let us go through it. This has been widely used in the education to explore the students, teachers' lived experiences of the learning, teaching, inclusion, assessment and institutional culture. For example, phenomenological studies in education have examined the experience of a student with disability in inclusive classroom, revealing emotional, social and cognitive dimension often overlooked by quantitative researches. Similarly, Teachers' narratives of professional development programs provide insight into how pedagogical changes is experienced at the personal level of the teacher. In education, phenomenological inquiry is especially valuable when the research purpose is to understand the experience rather than the outcome. It helps illuminate how educational policies, pedagogical practices, assessment system or learning environment are actually experienced by the learners and the teachers. Phenomenological studies contribute to improving learners centered pedagogy, designing supportive educational environment, informing teacher education and the professional development, giving voice to marginalized or underrepresented group in the society. Rather than generalizing finding to large population, phenomenological research offers deep, context sensitive and insight that enhance the understanding of educational realities. Now, go for the conclusion. So, in phenomenological is an influential qualitative research approach that seeks to understand the essence and the meaning of lived experiences as perceived by the individual themselves by focusing on participants' conscious experiences rather than measurable variables. Phenomenological study provides deep insight into how people interpret event, situation and social realities. It gives emphasis on the rich description, researcher reflexivity and the thematic analysis allow researchers to move beyond the surface explanations and uncover the core structures of experiences. In educational and social science researches, phenomenology is particularly valuable for illuminating learners and educators' perspectives, informing practice and giving voice to the unheard experiences. Although its findings are not intended for the statistical generalization, phenomenological inquiry contributes significantly to theory building and contextual understanding, making it an indispensable approach for exploring the human dimensions of educational phenomena. Here are the references and all the references which I have mentioned in the lecture I have given here. You can go through it for your further reading and keep learning through these reference books. Thank you.